All right, so you can see here, based on the license, right? This file is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike, so you are free to share, to copy, distribute, and transmit, to remix under the following conditions. You must attribute and you must share alike. And it's identified by these two symbols, which we will be talking about later on. So yes, you are not allowed to just use any photo on Google. The reason I haven't brought that up is because I don't want to really restrict you too much. And I know everything that we're using is for educational purposes and fair use. So I figured, why bother you with all of that complicated stuff first? Let's get the fun stuff out of the way, and then I'll give you the legal stuff later. All right. So if I didn't answer your question, hopefully I will in the Creative Commons class.
You answered it clearly. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
So I have a question, like how long, like average, how long does it take to make a flyer?
Well, I charge $250 for a flyer, and that's because it's based on 3 hours of work at $100 an hour, and you get a $50 discount.
Okay.
Yes. So for me, about 3 hours, but typically it takes me more than that. I'll be honest with you. I've estimated about 3 hours I can do a flyer, but I tend to be a perfectionist at times, and a flyer can take anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. And if you're talking about including changes depending on the client, I've worked on flyers for weeks.
For weeks?
Well, when you do it and they don't like it and they have a series of changes and it involves cutting out images and you have to do everything in detail and you have to go back and forth, and I mean it's an annoying process, but yeah, but typically 3 to 5 hours for me for a flyer, a well done flyer.
So you just have a backlog, like
a what?
Or if it's you like a backlog of flyers or business cards too, like, or if it's like you are doing it, or you have someone else helping you making flyers.
As a matter of fact, you guys are, I believe, the 5th group that we're taking through this ACA process. So we successfully gone through 4 groups before that. We have a number of people certified. I actually have a group of designers from that group, or from those 4 groups that I actually work with. I occasionally send projects to them and they get paid from it. So I know I do that. I don't know what other people do. Does that answer your question? So if you want to be,
I mean, like if you have like a backlog of flyers to do, because sometimes like especially during like the summer time when you have plenty events, something like, or you just like manage like the backlog. If you have backlogs and flyers.
Well, I suppose there would be backlogs, and with everything it have peaks in demand. But for me, I used to find my time being spent on flyers more in the past. These days, there are other designers that do flyers. I don't really do too many flyers, right? My flyer days were like in 2012 to 2015, right? And then after that, the designs that I do kind of change right now. I guess my clientele kind of change also. So I don't really have a backlog really to speak of, but there are times that there is work and an overflow of work. Yes, you will find that. As you would find, there are times when the market is dry and there's no work. Yeah.
Okay.
Answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions relating to Photoshop and layer styles? What we've done so far?
Can you repeat the homework, please?
So the homework is you are required to create 3 brand new custom styles of your own. 1 style, and so you will actually be saving your styles here, all right? And I'll show you how you do that in a bit. But 1 style is going to be optimized for text. 1 style is going to be optimized for use on images, and 1 style is going to be optimized for use on buttons, on a button, okay? And the reason why he's giving you a button is just because I wanted a 3rd one, and that's the quickest thing to come to mind that requires a specific style or a specific type of style. Yeah?
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any other questions before we continue?
So can you type the homework in words in the group chat, please?
All right, I'll send in the group chat after class, when I have a meeting immediately after, so a little later. All right, feel free to send a reminder if you think I forget. I might.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So far we have applied 3 effects: a color overlay, didn't change the color much, an outer glow, and a drop shadow. We really don't need them both, but we're keeping them both for now, right? And also I want you to notice that I've been starting from the bottom. And the reason why I've been starting from the bottom is because that is actually the order of your styles or your effects on your layer. So for instance, notice we have a color overlay, right? If I click gradient overlay right now, hold on, sorry. My color overlay should be at normal, sorry. So color overlay right now, right? We have a color overlay. If I click gradient overlay, notice nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is actually because the color overlay is above the gradient overlay and it's covering it so you don't really see it. So if I remove color overlay now, you can see the effect of my gradient overlay. Let's make it a bit more dramatic. So if I click on the text gradient overlay, go back. So this was my color overlay, right? If I click on the text gradient overlay, I have the option to adjust my gradient here. I'm just going to select one of the built-in gradients. Let me go to the simple effects or special effects. You know, let's go simple. I'm looking for something that I'm expecting to see, I'm not seeing. Okay, let's go simple. So simple gradients, okay. All right, so let's apply a simple gradient, pink and white. So you can see the effect of the gradient. We have pink and white. But if I apply a color overlay, and it's a solid color overlay, we don't see it at all because the color overlay is actually above the gradient. The reason why the color overlay doesn't affect the outer glow is because it's on the outside, and it doesn't affect the drop shadow because it's on the outside as well, right? But the gradient overlay is on the inside of the layer, and the color overlay basically just covers it up, right? Also, play around and experiment with how the colors mix. So if I change the blend mode right now to something like overlay, see, I have an effect that sort of mixes the yellow. Let's go with screen. Let's go with highlight. Sorry, I'm trying to get something and not working out. Anyway, but you can essentially mix the effect of the color overlay and the gradient using your blending options, and that can give you some pretty interesting effects, right? So such as this indifference, which is the reverse of the colors, or exclusion, which is similar to what you'll get from a camera film. Right, so play around with all of those options. There are too many options here for me to go through everything for you in detail. All right. Okay, so you have color overlay, which gives you a solid color overlay. Let's make it back solid. You have gradient overlay, which gives you a gradient overlay, right? And again, you have different types of gradient. So you have linear, radial, angle, play with the different options, reflected and diamond, right? You can also customize your gradients, right? So I could use one of the presets, right? Or I could create my own gradient style. Say I wanted, so I would click here. Let's make it blue and pink. And I'm gonna throw in a little white in the center. Or something like white anyway, right? And let's change the effect to, let's go back to linear, keep it simple, right? So you can see you can customize your gradient to get exactly what you're looking for, all right? And let's just set that to overlay now. Okay, didn't do too much, but anyway. So you have color overlay, you have gradient overlay, and you have pattern overlay. Pattern overlay will allow you to overlay your layer with a pattern, and you have a number of preset patterns as well. So artist surfaces, color paper, erodables, legacy patterns, nature patterns, rock patterns, texture field. Let's look at rock patterns. So rock patterns, okay. And we can make it look like it was composed of rocks. Right? Ton of different options. Of course, play around with it. This is why it looks like up close. Show you. Yeah. Also, see if you can figure out how you could create patterns of your own. All right, I'll give you a clue. You don't do it from the layer styles menu. You use one of your options here. Try the edit. All right. Sorry, try the edit. Try the edit if you're looking into it. All right. So everybody should be good with drop shadow, outer glow, pattern overlay, gradient overlay, color overlay. Oh, look at the color overlay with the pattern overlay below it. Set it to U. Okay, no. Yeah, so that is a color overlay that is actually just acting as a tint. And let me give you another pro tip. You can set the colors to act as a tint using a few of the options, like for instance, overlay or hue. I'm gonna let you again play around with that because the options are never set in stone, right? And it's actually just overlaying a color over the pattern. So you have this rock pattern with the color overlay, and you end up with something that looks like this, right? So the number of ways you can mix up your styles are endless. All right. Let's continue. Satin gives you the effect. Anybody ever work with satin cloth? I know a lot of you ladies here know what satin is. You know about, you might have a satin dress, right? Somebody might have satin curtains. You may have satin cloth. Anybody ever work with satin? Anyway.
Yes, sir.
Right. So the effect of the satin style is similar to the effect that you get when light interacts with the satin cloth. I think that is the best description I can give of what it actually does. All right. I did have a description for exactly what it does. It's not at the top of my mind right now. I will probably send that for you when I get to it in the group chat, right? But the effect that it gives is basically the effect of light interacting with your satin cloth, right? That kind of a glittery effect. May not be apparent on a solid yellow, but again, play around with it, not too many options. Yeah, there we go. Get something like this. All right. The inner glow is just like the outer glow, but on the inside. So let's give that a red glow on the inside. So I want to set my blend mode to normal so that I can make it a solid red. And let's give it a solid red glow. Increase the size so we can see it. Make it a little bit more size. Oh, and the opacity is low, so let's bring the opacity higher so it can be solid. So we can see that is the effect of the inner glow. It gives us a glow on the inside, whereas the outer glow gives us a glow on the outside. So your outer glow is on the outside, your inner glow is on the inside. You can give an inner glow that's a solid color, or you can give an inner glow that is a gradient. All right, so let's go back to our simple gradient. Actually, what I want to do is I have a pretty nice gradient here. I'm going to put back that gradient. And I just want to show you quickly how you would save that. So I have this gradient here. I'm going to save this as name customers go new. All right. Let me delete that. Sorry. Gradient. I'm gonna give it a name. Let's call it My Pretty Pink and blue gradient, right? And new. So now I've added that to my simple gradients, right? Okay. So let's take that out here. I can actually come and apply the inner glow, right? And I could apply my gradient, my pretty pink and blue gradient, and you can see it on the inside there. Again, not what you might expect, but there we go. Wait. Sorry. Anyway, there we go. All right, so that's your inner glow. Just showing you the different options available. We want to keep it in red, I think, and let's make it small. So I don't want to change the design too much. I just want to show you what can be done with the layer styles. All right, so we've covered inner glow. Inner shadow is similar to the drop shadow, but it falls on the inside of your object. That again, I'm gonna let you play around with. I don't think that warrants any more explanation, at least not in the 4 minutes that we have left. Stroke, let me take off everything else. Stroke is another good option that you could have used. Let's leave the inner glow. The stroke will essentially place a line or outline your perimeter. So I added a drop shadow for the first option to create a barrier between the yellow and the pink. I added an outer glow, but I could have also added a stroke. And let's add a black stroke here. And the stroke would be similar to an outer glow, but it would be a lot more crisp. A glow tends to glow and feather fuzzy out. A stroke is a solid thing, right? That's the difference between it. So again, bring your piece up. So that is what the black stroke would look like on the outside. So this is with the stroke, without the stroke. And again, you could make your stroke any color. There's no limitation as to what you can and cannot do. That would be with a white stroke. Yeah. This would be a red stroke. That will be a blue stroke. But we're giving it a black stroke again because we're not tweaking, we're not changing the design too much. And as a matter of fact, we add in the stroke together with the outer glow and the drop shadow. All right. And then lastly, at the top, we have Bevel and Emboss, which gives the 3D feel, right? The 3D vibes. So you don't really see it immediately there because the areas that it immediately affects when it's small like that is the edges. So it comes up from the edges, that's increase the size. And you should see it getting more solid. Now you have different options. You have your inner bevel, you have your outer bevel, and it basically just affects how it shows 3D. You can see now the little outer bevel makes it look like it's almost like on a metal board that you embossed, right? For the outer bevel. But it's still not embossed because you have an option called emboss, which is similar again to the outer bevel. Right? And you have pillow and stroke emboss. But for now, we're gonna use the inner bevel, and I'm gonna make it look not like separate 3D objects, like a separate S, a separate H, but I'm gonna give it a big bevel so that it sort of just has an even tone across everything. Right? This is with the bevel, without the bevel. Not too much of a difference, but it does make some, right? So this is my style, and it works perfect for text, doesn't it? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go to the layer, right? And this is my all of the effects. So that's my style right here. So I'm gonna right click, right? Hold on. Let's do it from the style. Let's go to styles. Yeah. And save style. Hold on. Sorry guys, I rushed it because I have so new style. All right, that's my cue. Sorry, that it was popping up on the other screen behind the Zoom window. All right, so let's go again, cancel. So when we go new style, so let's take it again. Notice what I have active is my text layer with the style that I have on it, right? I go to my effect panel and I go new style. I'm gonna call this my super cool style. All right. And now, if I come here and I go to my styles, what do I have here? I have this, which is called, if I hover over it, my super cool style. With one click, I can apply that very same style here, here. All right. So again, for your homework, I want you to create 3 of those. Now this one works great on text, as you can see, right? Let me see if it would work just as good on an image. Sorry, my image is small. I was experimenting with it, but it would apply for an image as well. But look at that. If so that's my layer. So notice I don't have a color overlay here, right? But if I were to add a color overlay, sorry, and it was set to normal, right? You could see essentially that that is not applicable to the image because essentially it takes away all of the value of the image when you apply a color overlay at full opacity, right? So that particular style would not be suitable for an image, right? Look at something else. Now these look pretty similar because I had yellow text, but because that style doesn't specify a color overlay, let's remove it. What if I started with a different color text? So let's say, what if my text, for instance, was green? All right? Would the effect, would the layer style have the same effect? Well, let's find out. It had a similar effect, but because it didn't change the color, it just added it to the green and it made it green. So that effect, right, you could use effectively on text and maintain whatever color you wanted. So in other words, it didn't destroy the text colors, it essentially just added to it, right? So you could see the color of the text for it. So that's how you determine what style is appropriate where. Sorry, so let's just go for it again. We have an image here. And let's go for our preset styles. Let me go to text effects. And let me remove all of those. Right, let me remove all of those effects from the image. Right, and let's apply a text effect. So this is a text effect. It works fine, I suppose, on your text up here. But if I were to apply that text effect to the image, again, it makes my image completely useless. That image might as well have been a box, right? Look at this. We have image effects. If I apply any of these effects to my image, notice it adds some form of enhancement. It might be an enhancement to you, but it adds some form of enhancement to my image. All right. But if I try that same image effect on my text, it leaves me with pretty boring text. Everybody see the differences? So an effect that works great for text would be really sucky for an image. And an effect that works great on an image might not be the most ideal thing for text or a button. So to reiterate the homework, your homework is to create 3 styles. One style that would be perfect for text. One style that would be perfect for use on a solid object like a button, right? And one that you could use to apply to an image. This is probably one of my favorite simple built-in image effects. It gives you a negative effect, right? And it's called night vision. Everybody good up to that point? We actually on overtime at this point. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, I know I still have to say it in the chat, but most people at least understand what you have to do for homework.
Yes, sir.
All right, so come up with 3 of your own styles. I showed you how you would save it. When you create your style, you go to the styles panel and you go new style. It will give you a dialog where you can put in the name of your style and save it. All right, guys, and then we'll have a look at them in the next class and deal with any difficulties that you guys may have had. Any final questions or comments before we wrap up for the evening?
No, sir.
Sorry, we had to sort of rush out the end of that class. As I mentioned, I have another meeting. However, I did not have a chance to take the attendance. So as you guys stepping out, can those of you here, please just send your name in the group chat so I can update my attendance sheet. Everybody
Okay.
like that?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. And if you have no further questions, then that is gonna be it for the night. I will see you guys. I have a crazy week next week, but hopefully on Tuesday. All right. If anybody has any difficulties with anything, feel free to send me a message. Any difficulties with the homework or anything we've done in Photoshop up to that point, or even just difficulties with Photoshop overall. All right, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, guys. So have a good evening. Have a good weekend. If I don't see you guys, well, I won't see you guys before next week. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday next week before it goes well. God spares our lives.
Same to you.
All right. Stay safe.